I walked away from a 16-year career running a multi-million-dollar business to begin my own entrepreneurial journey. And some of the lessons that I learned building this 7-figure business are not what I expected. And so I want to share some of those lessons with you to maybe shorten your learning curve and so that you can leverage my learnings in your own entrepreneurial journey. Hi, I'm Stacey Berger. I'm a transformational coach in both life and business, supporting entrepreneurs to achieve full spectrum success. 11 years ago, I made the decision to leave a successful corporate career and start my own business. And I had years of experience in growing business, and I thought I would be successful because I had some of the base understanding. I never expected it to be easy. I knew it would be a lot of work. And along the journey, there were lots of lessons, and there's been lots of learnings that continue. And some of those lessons were not what I had anticipated and expected. And so I wanted to share with you today some of the key learnings to help really collapse your journey so you can leverage those lessons, leverage those learnings in your own life. And the first major lesson that I learned was that I was so tied to being a general manager. That was my previous title. Anytime I went somewhere, oftentimes it was, what do you do? That's the first question that we get asked. And it was, I'm Stacey, and here's my career and my title. I hadn't realized how much I identified with that title, and that really was my identity, and it was like this badge of honor, and I was really proud of it. And now walking away from that career and starting something new, it was almost like I lost a part of myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. And it really led to this process of self-discovery, and that I am so much more than my job title. I'm so much more than my career. I had a lot of contacts in that industry that I walked away from, and I really felt like all of a sudden I knew nobody. I wasn't connected to anybody, and it was lonely. And it felt a little bit empty in the beginning. And I think when we're transitioning in any time of our life, there is a little bit of grieving of an identity, grieving of a job, if it's a relationship. And I certainly experienced that, and I didn't expect to. And it took a while to rebuild that identity. Who am I? And I would say that there was a part of me that set all of that experience. I had 16 years in that career, marketing and business operations and retail and human resources and financing. I had so much experience. And now that I was starting this new venture, I felt like I was starting from scratch. I felt like I was a beginner and I knew nothing. And that was a scary feeling as well. And it actually took probably a couple of years where I realized I'm not starting from scratch. I still have all of that wisdom. I still have all of that information. I still have all of that experience. And so really capturing all of that and bringing it into what was new. And so if you're feeling like you're starting over, you're starting from scratch, you don't know anything, I would invite you to challenge that. You're bringing yourself with you. You still have all of those experiences, all of the education, everything. So what are you bringing with you in this new journey? But starting from nothing felt a lot harder than I anticipated, and took a while to really step into that, which created the feeling of imposter syndrome. And so here I am now, and I'm going to networking events, and people are asking me, what are you doing now? And I'm really timidly saying, I'm a life coach. I didn't even know what a life coach was. It wasn't something that was really common over a decade ago. And I felt like such an imposter. Who am I to help people with their life when I'm feeling this way in my own life? And I realize now that anytime we're starting something new, of course we're going to have imposter syndrome because it's new to us. We haven't done it before. So allowing yourself to be a beginner, allowing yourself to be uncomfortable in the new skin, so to speak, to really give yourself permission to normalize imposter syndrome. And the only way that we really get over imposter syndrome is by embodying that new role. And it took a long time for me to do that. I would go to events and I would feel like, oh, everybody in here is a life coach. Like, who am I in that comparison? And over the years, as I've continued to show up for myself and for my dream and what I'm building, now I can walk in anywhere and confidently say, here's who I am, here's what I do. But I built that level of confidence over time. And you might feel like a fish out of water for a little bit, but there is life after that corporate career or after that life that you're leaving behind. The key is to keep moving forward, keep taking action, even when you're scared, even maybe when you don't feel like it. But that forward movement, that forward momentum is what's going to build the new life and the new success. The other really powerful lesson that I learned is I was kind of done with corporate. One of the reasons was I never felt like I had true freedom over my time. Even though I was told I had some flexibility, if I had to leave early, I would feel guilty about that, even if I worked till 9 o'clock the night before. There was just this constant feeling of being tied to something. And I desired more freedom to spend time with my kids. I had young kids at the time. They were 1, 3, and 5 years old, barely. And I just wanted that time freedom to be there for my kids in the way that I wanted to be. And so I felt like one of the ways to accomplish that was to go and work for myself. Well, now nobody can tell me what to do. I have complete time freedom and flexibility. And so I started my business and I got to work. And I knew how to work hard. And that's exactly what I did. I got up early in the morning, I worked late into nights, I was often working weekends, and all of a sudden, the time freedom I desired completely went away. In fact, I was probably working longer and more than I was when I was in my job. And so much so that I actually made myself physically sick. And I realized with some coaching that I had changed my physical position. I was no longer the general manager for this company. I'm now a business owner. I changed the position, but I hadn't changed the paradigm, that internal belief system. So I was still operating the same system within me that said work longer, work harder, work faster. And isn't it so true, the expression, we bring ourselves with us, right? We think, well, if I move to another country or move to another house, or I just got another job, or if I found a new relationship, then everything will be better, only to find ourselves repeating the same patterns. And that's exactly what I did. I was working longer, harder, faster, and the time freedom that I so desired was non-existent. And with coaching, with support, with somebody helping me identify that, I started to really work on creating that inner transformation, not just the outer transformation. So be really careful if you think your business is going to save your life, your business is going to make everything better. The business itself is a vehicle. What's going to create the real transformation is the internal work to be a match to what it is that you want. And I'm so grateful that's the work that I get to do with people, is really help them create the inner transformation so they can create the external result. And by changing the paradigm, not just the position, that's how I was able to double my income, work less hours, and truly create this life of freedom where I have that time freedom to do what I want to do, go where I want to go. Doesn't mean I still don't work hard. There's still a lot of effort that goes into that. But it's a completely different operating system now. So be careful of just changing the position without really doing that inner transformation, or you will just continue to repeat some of those patterns again and again and again. In order to create that inner transformation and the external results, one of the best ways to do that is by creating structures. Structures in your life around your thinking, structures in your life around your time, support structures to help you move forward. Those structures are so important to really help us install new habits, new operating systems, new beliefs. And one of the most powerful structures is your calendar. When I realized that I had changed the position, not the paradigm, I really leaned into my calendar. I made some big decisions for myself that I don't want to work weekends. I don't want to work evenings. I'm not somebody who functions well in the evening. I wanted to spend that time with my kids, with my husband, doing other things. So I made a decision. I'm no longer going to work evenings and weekends. And I lived into that structure. But by making that decision and putting structures around that decision, I started to attract different clients who were now available Monday to Friday during the week. I started to say no to things that would take me away from home in the evenings. I would say yes to the things that would happen during those daytime hours. But that required me to create the structure with my calendar and to say yes and no to things and to live into that structure. I also created lots of different structures around my thinking and put structures in place with support and coaching and mentorship to help me stay aligned to what it is that I wanted to create. So really understanding the power of structure and how we can use that to create results was a powerful lesson for me. And in saying that, those were some of the structures that I wanted for my life and what worked for me. And at the end of the day, the important thing is to find what works for you. And it can be really easy to think that we should be doing business, we should be doing life in a certain way. And in order to create success and results, it can be really important to quiet the opinions of other people and to really listen to what gives you life, what works for you, and to build that vision and those structures that are going to support you in what's most important to you. One of the greatest things about owning your own business is when we recognize that there's no lid, there's no cap. You can build it as big as you want it to be. You can define what success looks like to you and to really create the impact that you want to create. There is no limit. The possibilities are endless. There's a freedom and an empowerment in that, where you're no longer restricted to what the company's raises are every month or how much vacation you're going to cap out at after a number of years in service. It really is a blank slate. You get to design it any way that you want. The only limits that exist are the ones that you place on yourself with your thinking and with your beliefs. But celebrating you for taking this step, if you're contemplating and you're ready to take this step into entrepreneurship, I'm going to say it's not easy, right? It can be really difficult. It comes with its challenges, and it's definitely not for everybody. But if you feel that calling on your heart to really be your own boss and to know and to step into that, I just celebrate you for leaning in, for listening. Take these lessons and hopefully that speeds up your learning curve and accelerates your results. The possibilities really are endless. Remember to take the time to invest in your mindset, in your growth. Save this video, subscribe to the channel for more tips and tricks and tools to really help you create full spectrum success in your life. I'm Stacey Berger. Here is to you living a life that you love.